My daughter abandoned me when I needed her most. And then she tried to steal my house and my freedom. I never thought I'd be the kind of parent who had to beg their own child for a ride. But here I am, 70 years old, standing in my driveway, realizing my own daughter doesn't want to take me anywhere anymore.
Dad, I'm busy. Can't you figure it out yourself?
That was her exact sentence. The words stung like a slap.
Let me give you some background.
My name's Robert. I'm a retired teacher. I spent my whole life trying to do the right thing, worked 2 jobs when the kids were small, kept food on the table, saved every penny. My wife passed away 10 years ago, and since then, it's just been me and my daughter, Emily.
She's my only child. I thought we were close. I thought she respected me.
But lately, things have been different. Emily's got a good job, a husband, and 2 grown kids of her own. I don't need much from her, just a ride now and then. I stopped driving after my doctor said my eyesight wasn't great at night.
I didn't want to risk it.
So when I needed groceries or a doctor's appointment, I asked her.
And for a while, she helped.
But little by little, the excuses started. Dad, gas prices are crazy.
Dad, I don't have time.
Dad, can't you just order delivery? Each time, I swallowed my pride. I told myself, she's busy, she has her own life.
But inside, I felt smaller and smaller.
A man who once raised a family, built a home, now reduced to begging for a simple lift to the store. The breaking point came 2 weeks ago. I had a doctor's appointment, one I couldn't miss. I called Emily the night before. Sweetheart, can you pick me up tomorrow at 10?
It's important. She sighed on the phone.
I'll never forget that sigh. It sounded like she was carrying 100 pounds just by talking to me. Dad, honestly, I can't keep doing this. Maybe you should look into one of those senior shuttles.
I'm exhausted.
I went quiet.
My throat tightened.
I wanted to argue, but all I managed was, okay.
I understand.
But I didn't understand.
Not at all.
I lay awake all night, staring at the ceiling, remembering the times I drove her to piano lessons, basketball games, birthday parties.
Hundreds of times. Thousands of miles. I never once told her, I'm exhausted.
I just did it, because that's what family does. The next morning, I made a decision.
I wasn't going to beg anymore.
If my daughter thought I was a burden, then I'd take matters into my own hands. At 70 years old, I walked into a dealership and bought myself a car.
It felt crazy but also powerful.
The salesman looked at me like I was out of my mind. Sir, are you sure? Do you want a test drive?
I laughed.
Son, I've been driving longer than you've been alive.
Just give me the keys.
I signed the papers and drove off the lot in a shiny, modest little sedan. My hands were trembling on the wheel, not from fear, but from excitement.
Freedom.
Independence.
The wind in my hair. I hadn't felt that alive in years.
When Emily found out, she was furious.
You bought a car?
Dad, that's ridiculous.
You're too old to be driving. What if you get hurt? What if you hurt someone else?
I looked her straight in the eye and said, what if you just loved me enough to help me when I asked? She went silent. For once, she had nothing to say. The house was quiet after she left, but in my chest, I felt something burning.
Not anger. Not regret. Just strength. Maybe I was old.
Maybe my eyesight wasn't perfect. But I wasn't useless. I wasn't going to sit at home waiting for scraps of her time. That night, I took myself out to dinner. Just me, my car, and a plate of fried chicken at the diner I hadn't visited in years. The waitress smiled and said, "Haven't seen you in forever, Mr. Robert." I smiled back. It felt good to be seen again, not as a burden, not as a problem, but as a person.
And here's the thing.
I realized family doesn't always mean the people you gave everything to. Sometimes, family is anyone who shows up, who respects you, who makes you feel human. Emily will have to face the fact that her father isn't going to fade quietly into the background.
I raised her better than that.
If she wants to push me aside, fine. But I'll stand tall on my own 2 feet, and now, on my own 4 wheels. After that night at the diner, I thought things might calm down. I figured Emily would cool off, accept my decision, and maybe even respect me for standing on my own 2 feet.
But instead, the opposite happened.
A few days later, she came over unannounced. She walked into my house like a storm, her voice sharp. Dad, we need to talk. You buying that car was reckless. I talked to Tom, that's her husband, and we think you need to consider selling the house and moving into assisted living. It would be safer for everyone. I froze. Selling my house? I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. Yes, she snapped. This place is too big for you, it's falling apart, and honestly, you can't manage on your own. What if something happens? Tom says it's time. I stared at her. This was the same house I built with my own hands 50 years ago. The house where Emily took her first steps, where her mother painted the kitchen walls yellow, where every memory of my life lived. And now, she was talking about selling it like it was an old couch. Emily, I said slowly, is this about my safety, or is this about money? Her eyes flickered for just a second. And in that second, I saw the truth. The next week, I started noticing little things. Phone calls I wasn't meant to overhear. Her and Tom whispering in the driveway. My grandson, Jake, accidentally letting slip, Mom said when you move out, she gets the big bedroom. My stomach twisted. My own daughter was circling me like a vulture, waiting for the chance to pick apart my life. I confronted her one evening. Emily, tell me the truth. Do you want me safe, or do you want my house? She crossed her arms, her face cold. Dad, don't make this about money. You know I've always been here for you. I laughed bitterly. Always been here? You couldn't even give me a ride to the doctor. Her face turned red. That's not fair. I have a family, responsibilities. And what am I? I shouted, my voice shaking. Am I not your family? Did I not raise you? Feed you? Work myself to the bone so you could have a better life? The silence that followed was heavier than any words. She didn't deny it. She just looked away. Later that night, I sat in my study, staring at the old wooden desk where I kept my will. 4 years, my plan was simple. When I passed, Emily would inherit the house, the savings, everything. I thought she'd honor me, maybe even pass the home down to her kids. But now, I wasn't so sure. Something inside me cracked open. I pulled out the will, laid it on the desk, and whispered to myself, maybe it's time for a change. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Mr. Collins, I said, I want to update my will. He chuckled. Oh? What's on your mind, Robert? I took a deep breath. My daughter's been pushing me to sell the house. I don't trust her anymore. I want to make sure my legacy doesn't fall into greedy hands. We spent 2 hours rewriting everything. I made provisions for my grandchildren directly, skipping over Emily and Tom. I even set aside part of my savings for the local library where I used to work, and a fund for underprivileged students to buy books. By the time I walked out of that office, I felt lighter. I felt free. When Emily found out, the explosion was worse than I imagined. She came over screaming, her face red with fury. How could you do this to me? After everything I've done for you? I couldn't help it, I laughed. The sound startled even me. Everything you've done? Emily, all you've done lately is treat me like a problem to get rid of. She threw her hands up. So what? You'd rather give money to strangers than to your own daughter. They're not strangers, I said firmly. They're kids who need a chance. Something you stopped giving me a long time ago, your time, your respect, your love. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked at me like I had betrayed her. But in truth, she had betrayed me first. The days that followed were tense. She stopped visiting, except for the occasional angry text. You'll regret this, Dad. You're being manipulated. You're ruining our family. But my family had already been broken. Not by me, but by her greed. And then, one evening, I overheard something that confirmed all my fears. I had left the phone on speaker by accident when Emily called, and I heard Tom's voice in the background, low but clear. Don't worry, once he's gone, we'll get the house one way or another. Just play nice until then. My heart stopped. My knees went weak. They weren't worried about me, they were waiting for me to die. That night, as I sat in the dark living room, the weight of it all crashed down. My only child, the one I raised with love and sacrifice, was plotting her life without me in it. I wasn't just a burden to her, I was an obstacle. I clenched my fists. I refused to let her win. If she wanted to see me as weak, as disposable, she was in for a surprise. I looked out the window at my car parked in the driveway, gleaming under the porch light. That car wasn't just a vehicle, it was my symbol of freedom. And now, I realized, it would also be my weapon. Because if Emily wanted to strip me of my dignity, I'd make sure she never touched a cent of my legacy. After hearing Tom's voice on that phone call, something inside me hardened. I had spent weeks trying to tell myself Emily was just stressed, overworked, maybe even misguided. But now I knew the truth. My own daughter wasn't worried about me. She was worried about my house, my money, and how soon she could get her hands on it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, the old clock ticking loudly on the wall, and thought about what to do. Should I confront her again? Should I tell the whole family what I heard? Or should I play along, let her think I was still the naive old man she could manipulate? By sunrise, I had my answer. I wasn't going to let her destroy me quietly. If she wanted a battle, she was going to get one. The first shot came from her side. A few days later, I ran into my grandson Jake at the grocery store. He looked uneasy, almost guilty, as he pushed a cart down the aisle. "Grandpa," he muttered, "why are you being so stubborn? Mom said you're refusing her help and being reckless with your money." I froze, my heart aching. "Jake, is that what she told you?" He nodded.
Yeah.
"She said you're, losing it a little. That you're not thinking straight anymore. She even said maybe you shouldn't be driving." I gripped the cart so hard my knuckles went white. Emily was poisoning my own grandchildren against me. "Jake," I said quietly, "I need you to listen to me, not your mother. I'm not losing it. I'm not reckless. She's twisting the truth because she wants this house." He frowned. "Why would Mom lie about that?" I looked into his young, confused eyes and realized something painful. To him, his mother was the authority. I was just the old man at the end of his road. The very next Sunday at church, I felt the stares. Whispers behind my back. Even the pastor's wife gave me a look of pity. After the service, an old friend pulled me aside. "Robert," she said gently, "I heard from Emily that you've been struggling. She's worried about you." Struggling. That word hit me like a rock. My daughter was out there painting me as some senile fool who couldn't take care of himself. She wasn't just trying to steal from me, she was trying to destroy my reputation in the community I had lived in for 50 years. I clenched my jaw and said, "Thank you for your concern. But don't believe everything you hear." Inside, though, I was boiling. If she thought she could shame me into giving up my life, she had underestimated me. That week, I decided to take action. I invited my grandchildren, Jake and Lily, over for dinner. Just us, no Emily, no Tom. I cooked their favorite meal, chicken pot pie, the way their grandmother used to make it. As they ate, I told them stories. "Do you know," I said, "I used to drive your mother to school every day, even when I was working double shifts. I never missed a day. I wanted her to feel safe, loved." They smiled politely, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. Emily's words had planted seeds. I decided to go further. "Kids," I said softly, "your mother is telling people I'm weak. That I'm not thinking clearly. But I need you to know the truth. I'm not crazy. I'm not reckless. What I am, is hurt. Hurt that the daughter I gave everything to now treats me like a burden." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Grandpa, I don't think you're crazy." Jake looked down, ashamed. "I don't either. I don't know who to believe anymore." "Believe what you see with your own eyes," I said firmly. "Not gossip. Not lies." A few days later, the situation exploded. Emily showed up at my house, slamming the door behind her. "Dad, how dare you drag the kids into this?" They came home upset, saying you accused me of being greedy. "Do you know how damaging that is?" I stood tall. "Not as damaging as you telling the whole town I'm losing my mind." Her eyes narrowed. "You don't understand, do you? You're making this harder than it needs to be." "I'm trying to protect you." "Protect me?" I snapped. "From what? From living in my own home? From driving my own car? Or are you just protecting your inheritance?" Her face twisted with rage.
You're being paranoid. Am I? I shouted. I heard Tom. I heard him say, once he's gone, we'll get the house one way or another. Don't you dare tell me I'm paranoid. She went silent. For the first time, she looked scared. Word of our fight spread quickly. Small towns have long ears and sharp tongues. Suddenly, everyone knew the Bennett family was at war. Some sided with Emily. She's just worried about her dad. Others shook their heads, muttering, shameful, trying to take her father's house. The community was divided, and I was caught in the middle. But instead of feeling weak, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: power. The truth was finally slipping out, and Emily couldn't control it. One evening, I sat on the porch, watching the sun dip behind the hills, when Lily came to sit beside me. She took my hand and whispered, "Grandpa, I believe you. I think Mom is wrong. I don't like the way she talks about you." Tears burned in my eyes. At least one person in the family still saw me for who I was. Not a burden, not a prize to fight over, but a man who had lived, loved, and still deserved respect. But I knew the battle wasn't over. Emily wasn't the kind of person to back down. If anything, the exposure would only make her more desperate. And as I looked at the glowing porch light reflecting on my car, I made myself a promise. If my own daughter wanted a war over dignity and inheritance, then she had just declared war on the wrong man. I thought the worst was over after the community started to see through Emily's lies. I thought maybe she'd back down once she realized people were talking. But I underestimated her. Emily didn't retreat. She doubled down. It started with a letter in the mail. A thick envelope, with a law office logo stamped on the corner. My heart sank the second I saw it. Inside was a notice. Emily had filed a petition for guardianship, claiming I was no longer capable of managing my own affairs. Guardianship. In other words, she was trying to strip me of my rights, to take control of my bank accounts, my house, my decisions, my entire life. I sat at the kitchen table, reading the words over and over, my hands trembling. Incompetent to care for himself. That's what it said. Incompetent. After 70 years of raising a family, teaching generations of students, fixing my own roof, mowing my own lawn, and surviving the death of my wife, my own daughter had stamped me with that word. I called Emily right away. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. Her voice was cold, rehearsed. "Dad, it's for your own good. You're not thinking clearly anymore. You're wasting money, making reckless choices. Tom and I just want to make sure you're safe." "Safe?" I shouted. "Safe from what? From living my life? From spending my own money the way I see fit? You don't understand," she snapped. "This isn't about you. It's about the family. If you make mistakes, if you throw money away, it affects all of us. You need guidance." I laughed bitterly. Guidance? Or control? There was a long pause. Then she said, almost whispering, "You'll thank me one day." I slammed the phone down so hard it rattled the table. The days that followed were hell. Rumors spread faster than ever. People whispered at the post office, at church, at the grocery store. Some believed I was losing it. Others thought Emily was greedy. Every time I stepped outside, I felt eyes on me, judging. But I wasn't going to roll over. I called my lawyer, Mr. Collins. "She wants guardianship," I told him. "She's trying to bury me alive." He sighed. "I've seen this before, Robert. Children turning on parents for property. But don't worry, we'll fight it. We'll gather witnesses, medical records, proof of your independence. The court doesn't just hand out guardianship without a fight." For the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Maybe the system would protect me. Emily, of course, wasn't done. She showed up at my house one afternoon, uninvited. "Dad," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "we don't have to go through lawyers. Just sign over power of attorney to me. That way, I can handle things smoothly, without dragging you into court." I stared at her like she was a stranger. "You really think I'd sign away my life to you? After everything you've done?" Her smile faltered. "I'm trying to make this easier." "No," I said firmly. "You're trying to erase me while I'm still alive." Her face twisted with anger. "Fine. Then I'll let the court decide." The weeks leading up to the hearing were some of the hardest of my life.
I had to prove I was competent. Imagine that. At 70 years old, after decades of living responsibly, I had to prove to strangers that I was capable of tying my own shoes. Doctors examined me, asked me questions, tested my memory. I answered every one of them with fire in my veins. What year is it? 2025. Who is the president? I answered, sharp as ever. They couldn't trip me up. Meanwhile, Mr. Collins gathered statements from friends, neighbors, even the pastor. They all wrote letters saying I was capable, independent, and clear-minded. Still, doubt gnawed at me. What if the court believed Emily? What if all my rights were handed over, and I became a prisoner in my own home? The night before the hearing, I barely slept. I kept pacing through the house, touching the walls, the furniture, the photographs of my wife and daughter when she was still small and innocent. Everything I had built, everything I had loved, it was all at stake. At dawn, I sat on the porch, watching the sky turn pink. And I made myself a promise: if I lost tomorrow, I wouldn't go quietly. They could take my house, my bank account, my car, but they couldn't take my spirit. The day of the hearing arrived. The courtroom felt cold, sterile. Emily sat on the other side, her lawyer by her side, Tom smirking in the back row. I wanted to shout at him, to tell everyone what I had overheard, but I held my tongue. My time would come. Emily's lawyer painted a picture of me as a frail, confused old man. He's reckless with money. He bought a car without consulting his family. He refuses help. He's isolated. He's showing signs of poor judgment. Each word felt like a dagger. Then it was my turn. My lawyer stood, steady and calm. Your Honor, my client is 70, yes. But he is not incompetent. He is independent. He manages his own life. He drives. He shops. He cooks. He maintains his home. He has friends, community, and a clear mind. His daughter's petition is not about his safety, it's about control. The judge turned to me. Mr. Bennett, do you wish to speak? I stood, my legs shaking, but my voice strong. Yes, Your Honor. I want to say this: I may be old, but I am not useless. I raised my daughter with love. I gave her everything. And now she stands here, trying to take away the little dignity I have left. If that's not greed, I don't know what is. The courtroom went silent. As the hearing ended, the judge said she would review the evidence and deliver a decision soon. Emily avoided my eyes as we left, but I caught the flash of anger on her face. She wasn't used to me standing up for myself. That night, back at home, I sat by the window and thought about how far things had gone. A daughter trying to legally erase her father. A father fighting for the right to live his own life. And I knew, deep down, that the fight wasn't over. The real battle was still ahead. The days after the hearing were some of the longest of my life. Every ring of the phone, every knock at the door made my heart jump. I didn't know whether I'd wake up one morning to find out that my life, my money, my house, my freedom, was no longer mine. Emily kept her distance, but she sent me text messages almost every day. Dad, please stop fighting this. You'll thank me one day. Why are you making this harder than it has to be? And then, one that chilled me to the bone. If you lose, remember, I warned you. Warned me. Not helped me, not cared for me, warned me. That was the daughter I raised. Finally, the letter came. Thick envelope, same courthouse stamp as before. My hands trembled as I opened it. The words blurred at first, but then I saw the sentence that made me collapse into my chair with relief. The petition for guardianship is denied. Denied. I was free. The court had seen through her lies. They had recognized me as capable, independent, and undeserving of her control. I laughed out loud, tears streaming down my face. For the first time in months, I felt truly alive. But the story didn't end there. No, Emily wasn't about to accept defeat gracefully. She came storming into my house that very evening, red-faced, fists clenched. You humiliated me in court. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was for me? I stood, taller than I had in years. Embarrassing for you? Embarrassing for you? Emily, you tried to steal my life out from under me. You lied to your children, to the town, to the court. And you dare call yourself embarrassed? Her eyes filled with tears, but they weren't the tears of regret. They were the tears of anger, the kind people cry when they realize they've lost. "You'll regret cutting me out of your will," she spat. I looked her dead in the eye. "No, Emily. The only regret here is mine. Regret that I raised a daughter who values money more than her father's love." From that day forward, something shifted in our relationship. She stopped calling, stopped visiting. Even the grandchildren came by less and less. Maybe she told them to stay away, maybe they were just caught in the middle. Either way, I knew what I had to do. I went back to my lawyer and finalized my will, ironclad, untouchable. The house, my savings, everything I had worked for would go directly to my grandchildren, bypassing Emily entirely. On top of that, I donated a portion to the local library, a scholarship fund for underprivileged kids. When Mr. Collins handed me the final documents, he said, "This is solid, Robert. No one can contest it. Not even her." I nodded. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Word spread quickly. Small towns have no secrets. Everyone soon knew that Emily had lost in court and that she'd been cut out of the inheritance. The whispers that once accused me of being senile turned into murmurs of sympathy and pity for her. At church the following Sunday, the pastor looked me in the eye during his sermon and said, "Respect your parents. Honor them in their old age. For the way you treat them will return to you one day." I caught Emily shifting uncomfortably in the pew across the aisle. Her face turned pale. Everyone knew. Everyone had seen her exposed for what she truly was. A week later, Jake showed up at my door. He looked older somehow, weighed down by something. "Grandpa," he said softly, "I'm sorry. I didn't know what Mom was doing. She told us you were confused. But now I see, she was the one who was wrong." I hugged him tightly. "It's not your fault, Jake. You're young. You trust your mother. But you must always learn to see with your own eyes, not just believe words." Lily came the next day, tears in her eyes, hugging me like she was afraid to let go. "I'll never let anyone take you away from me," she whispered. Those moments made every painful fight worth it. Because even if Emily had betrayed me, her children, the future of this family, still saw me for who I truly was. One quiet evening, I sat on my porch watching the sun dip low, the sky turning gold and purple. My car gleamed in the driveway, a symbol of the independence I had fought so hard to keep. I thought of my wife, long gone, and I whispered to the sky, "They tried to take everything from me, but I'm still here, and I won."